Curious characters with colorful hair, action, cute waifus, a normal and boring high school guy sent to a magical fantasy world to become a hero with lots of women who fall in love with him, result in Tsukimichi Michibiku Isekai Dochu, the recap. This is the story of Makoto Masumi, an ordinary guy with an ordinary life, as ordinary as it is boring, until one day, some gods get to play. The god Tsukimichi transports Makoto to a magical world to become a great hero with his personal harem, but the goddess of the other world considers Makoto too ugly and banishes him to the wasteland infested with non-humans, horrifying monsters, and monsters that will become beautiful ladies that will make up the harem of the protagonist, who only given the ability to understand all languages. Tsukimichi intervenes by explaining in Japanese that Makoto's abilities were restricted by modern life. But in the new world he is quite powerful and free to do as he pleases. All very crazy, but it's an anime, so magic. 3 days after crossing the wasteland, Makoto saves a young orc girl named Emma from a two-headed wolf monster that he kills, revealing his new super strength. Emma takes him to a small town where the boy learns a little magic. He then faces the invincible Shin, a huge dragon who creates illusions using fog. Shin gets Makoto into a jinjutsu, an illusion of a joyful memory, but in the illusion he is lured by old memories of Japan. But Makoto is the protagonist. He breaks the illusion and is surprised when Shin offers him to become a familiar, with the only condition that he signs a contract. With him, Shin is transformed into a beautiful Chikona samurai girl. She transports him to an alternate universe where time regularly passes, and the place is very similar to the countryside in Japan. Makoto tells the orcs that all is well, he has already defeated Shin. In gratitude they invite them to reside in his dimension, which is now suitable for farming. Shin continues to rummage through Makoto's memories. Excitedly she demands to create a television set where she can store her own memories. Tsukimichi explains to Makoto that her parents were born on this planet before going to Japan, so she decides she wants to learn more about the place, when suddenly a giant interdimensional spider appears. As it is a very imposing and rude spider, it calls itself the Black Disaster. The little spider was insatiably hungry, but our protagonist is not touched by its eggs, so he shoots it with his water bow, but the spider regenerates and devours Makoto. Shin quickly approaches to help his now familiar. However, the spider declares that the extreme brutality has satisfied its masochistic desire and wants to stay with Makoto indefinitely. Despite Makoto Shin's unconsciousness, he advises the spider to create a contract with him to obtain a human form, and by the time Makoto awakens he realizes he now has another familiar servant species with prominent curves that cause Makoto to shiver. Since they are now human, the dragoness changes her name to Tomo and the spider to Mio. Makoto realizes that Tomo and Mio went off to recruit while he was in a coma, and his village is now filled with orcs, dwarves, Pegelagardos, and humanoid spiders who name him their master. As he turns around thinking about everything, Makoto comes upon a village of humans, who immediately attack him. Makoto's magical aura is too intense. Tomo claims that the humans must mistake him for a dark wizard. To be diplomatic, Makoto studies the human language for months and has the dwarves create things to block his aura. They enter the human settlement under the guise of merchants and join the Adventurers Guild. Tomo and Mio set records by being 4 times more powerful than other adventurers, while Makoto is weaker than a child due to aura suppression. Tomo learns that Lancer, a dragon she knew, was killed by Sophia Bulga, a strong adventurer. Makoto notices that commodity prices are unusually high, and that people are following them and watching them with judging looks. Tomo was ready to protect the wagon from any night attack. A young girl named Rainon approaches Makoto and Mio while they were shopping to ask for help as her sister Toa was missing. Makoto, with the protagonist's power, deduces that Toa is being held by a criminal organization. So Mio and Tomo are sent to rescue her. Makoto worries that Toa looked a lot like a girl he met in Japan named Hasegawa. Toa and her captor Mills, Ace, the strongest adventurer today, are tracked down. Mills, The secret commander of the thieves explains that a demon lord has recently approached the city and has a bounty on his head, unaware that the demon lord is Makoto. Rainon rushes out and informs the thieves that Makoto's wagon has been located with very valuable fruit. The thieves demand that he steal Makoto's gold to settle Towa's obligations. Rainon thinks that after Makoto's kindness he can't steal from him. Meanwhile, Mio and Tomo compete to see who can take out more opponents, thus easily defeating Mills and his group of thieves, destroying half the city in the process. Tomo uses her power to manipulate memory by claiming that a horde of monsters were responsible for the disaster. Rainon is reunited with his sister, who looks a lot like Hasegawa, except for her hair color. Makoto congratulates her girls for rescuing Towa, but sends them back to the Paramo as punishment for destroying the human settlement. Makoto registers with the Adventurers Guild in another city due to the earlier destruction. To avoid trouble, Makoto sends Tomo to train in the mountains. On their way they defeat different beasts and obtain important materials that will serve them in the future. They arrive at the guild where Makoto gets his professional adventurer's license, quickly gets his first mission, and with his new friends decides to organize a Carnita Asada, Luisa, Hazal, Ranina, Towa, and his little sister. While eating, Makoto mentions that he will sell the ruby eyes to the Rembrandt Trading Company. However, Towa warns him about the dirty reputation and rumors about that company. Emma delivers the progress report on their village. Each species has taken on a specific task and they really seem to mesh quite well together. At this point Makoto remembers Tomo, but it doesn't go any further than that. Here an old dwarf engineer shows him his work in the craftsman's store. There Makoto is presented with a cool new outfit, but not only will it look with flow, but the suit is a magical armor that will surely provide new and timely skills. But our protagonist is too strong and that armor can't withstand his ki and breaks, but the idea pleases Makoto and he asks for a stronger one to be made. Makoto realizes that the magic materials of the demi-plane are more powerful than those developed on Earth. After this, and despite the warnings, he goes to the Rembrandt Company with the ruby eyes. The manager of the place has a contemptuous attitude with Makoto, until he realizes that it is the protagonist and that he brings with him the ruby eyes. Then he changes his attitude. He apologizes, enthusiastically tells him that the eyes make ambrosia a cure for his wife and daughters cursed by witchcraft. After learning that they could cure the ladies, the servants and family are overjoyed. Makoto receives his reward and goes to register at the guild of this new city. There the girl tells him, "Don't get excited, friend, you must pass 2 exams." Makoto gets nervous because he has never been very good at school, but the girl sells him a book where the content of the exam comes. But all those nerves go away when he discovers that it's actually too easy, so he decides to solve it right then and there, concluding that it's elementary school level. Meanwhile, Tomo was fighting against giant monsters. The second test was to collect some items, which she solved quickly. After this, Makoto sees a business opportunity with a portal. As a good entrepreneur, he decides to trade fruits and vegetables. Mio becomes addicted to watching anime and cartoons. Tomo and Mio have a fight, but Makoto arrives and fixes things. Later they both try to seduce him, but Makoto is very Virgo and decides to sleep sitting down. With Hazel's help, he decides to make ambrosia, that special medicine. They talk about it while 2 mysterious adventurers spy on them with the intention of preventing their order. Meanwhile, Patricio Rembrandt has the person responsible for the witchcraft chained to his family. There we see his true nature, torturing and murdering him in secret. Hazel finally manages to perform the ambrosia. Makoto applies an armbar to Patrick's wife and they manage to cure her as well as the daughters. When Makoto leaves, he is reunited with Mio and Tomo. While they were talking, they are attacked by a mysterious magician. Makoto manages to evade the attack, but the girls receive it directly. However, they are very strong and do not receive any damage. The place is in an uproar. Things were not looking good for our protagonists. Haha, who am I kidding? Tomo quickly busts everyone's ass. The leader of this group turned out to be the best adventurer of the place, who apparently had been hired by a mysterious guy. He didn't know that the spell on the Rembrandt ladies would lead to their death. According to him, it was only a sleep spell. Lime the adventurer accepts his mistake and apologizes to Mr. Rembrandt. As punishment, Lime decides to quit his job as an adventurer. Tomo takes advantage, gives him a katana and proposes him to work as a spy, while she would protect the most important thing for him, an orphanage where there were many children and where he grew up. The Rembrandts realize that Makoto's new venture is a danger to the company as they would lose their monopoly. In the meantime, Makoto and the girls put the species of their village to train together by holding weekly mini martial arts tournaments. Makoto, Mio, and Tomo check in again. Tomo realizes that he has been left far behind Mio in his absence. The girl of the guild, seeing that they were adventurers of great level, asks them to recruit the successor of Lime's group, so our protagonists seek the group of Toa Rainon's sister. Tomo abandons them in the bottom of the forest where they must get the tails of some wild monkeys. The next day, Toa and his group return with a bunch of monkey tails. They were now recognized as a group of very powerful adventurers. Makoto still had the idea of opening a mega business. He planned to buy a piece of land to open a giant store where he would sell all kinds of items. However, they start to put many obstacles in his way. Patrick tells him that in that city it will be quite difficult to start his business, so he finds him a plot of land in a neutral city. Makoto Trading Enterprise is a fact. In his town, they have a big party. During a bout training, Makoto almost died. He had inadvertently increased his chakra. He now had a power level similar to the gods. He had to be very careful because if he continued like this, the goddess would see him as a competitor and would kill him. One day, Makoto returns to the human realm, unwittingly arrives in the red light district, where he is approached by a distinguished lady of the gallant life. Before even being able to accept the exchange, Mio and Tomo take him away. Both of them, enraged, complain to him because the two of them had tried to seduce him a lot while he was there with a prostitute. The two girls were determined to make him theirs by force, but Makoto really saw them as his family, so he opens a portal and leaves. In the village, Emma informs him that his new suit of armor is ready. He is now able to control his ki. Leaving the place, Mio apologizes for what happened. They both head to the flower field they intended to exploit for their new company. There they run into the protectors. Makoto explains their noble goal, but the moment is interrupted by some adventurous thieves led by the aforementioned prostitute. Things get out of control and everyone is attacked by the guardians. Makoto sends the thieves to another dimension, immobilizes the guardians, and explains once again that he intends to negotiate. The guards take them to their leaders, and there they meet two other macabrely mysterious guys. Things get out of control, and it turns out that an evil spirit possesses one and murders the other. Lich, the spirit of the bald man, attacks Makoto. No doubt the Lich did not know he was facing the protagonist, who easily defeats him. The people of the forest plan to execute Makoto because they doubted if his intentions were only to negotiate. Here Tomo appears, reveals that she is Shin, the powerful dragon, entity that the village praised, leading everyone clown, knowing that the powerful dragon is subject of the man they tried to kill. Back in the village, Makoto, the girls, and the Lich have a deep conversation about life, traveling between universes and magic. It concludes with the Lich making a contract with our protagonist, taking human form. Now the skull is a beautiful, muscular, and sexy shaggy minion of Makoto. The hot moment is interrupted when Tomo is seriously injured. No one understands what the hell is going on and a huge roar is heard. Lich proceeds to heal the wounded. However, there were several fatalities. Makoto uses his protagonist's power and discovers that those responsible were humans with a mysterious ring. Makoto gets angry and kills the culprits, moment in which he uses Tomo's powers for a moment. After this, Tomo recovers from her wounds and tells us that Makoto was able to use her power because of the bond they have. Makoto goes around his village apologizing to those affected and developing different protocols to avoid another similar tragedy. Our protagonist was planning to go on a research mission with the human Lich. However, the goddess transports him to another dimension, where Sophia Bolda and Lancer aka Mitsurugi attack him. Here they have an epic fight for honor and destiny between the demons and the good people. Makoto tries to dialogue, but they cut off several fingers. It is then that he shows them who is the protagonist. and we see an epic fight. Makoto releases all his ki, ending the fight, forming a lake in the middle of nowhere thanks to his great power. He is finally transported back to his village, wakes up in his bed in the middle of Mio and Tomo. The group talks about what happened. Shiki mentions that perhaps the goddess used Makoto for her own purposes. Then Tomo somehow managed to have a mini Tomo, who calls Makoto Papa. In the end, Makoto's business goes well. They open their store, and in the village they have a big party, where Mio and Tomo argue again while Makoto observes, reflecting on his decisions, and the end. So ends this nice story. Tell me in the comments what you thought. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Thumbs up to this video, subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video. Bye.